Okay guys, welcome back to another video, and as the title said, I shall be playing Minecraft and reading some Reddit stories. It's going to be a mix of No Sleep and Am I the A-Hole? So yeah, whether you're going to watch or you're going to be doing homework or sleeping, whatever you like, sit down, buckle up, and let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to be doing a mix of Am I the A-Hole stories and No Sleep. So while I'm reading, I'm going to be playing some Minecraft, waxing some blocks, so you can either watch that or you can listen to this to study, or you can just simply listen to this to go to bed. Whatever floats your boat. And let's get into it. We're starting with Am I the A-Hole story. So, my partner wants to be a part of my hobbies, but I resent his presence there. Hey, need an opinion. I'm a menopause woman and haven't been feeling 100%, even kneeled emotionally, so just putting that out there before I start my rant. I've been ballroom dancing for close to 20 years, since before I met my now partner 17 years. When we met, he wanted to come to my classes but quickly lost interest. I carried on, and since about 10 years ago, I've slowly formed a really nice, solid group of friends in my dance class who I see mainly in class and also occasionally at weekends when there's a social dancing event. My partner's not jealous, and he's always encouraged me to go, knowing it makes me happy, which is great. I've also always encouraged his hobbies and social life, but therein lies the problem. He has slowly just stopped having any friends, or staying in touch with anyone, or going to football or doing anything. He now has one friend he meets about 3 times for a year for coffee, and has a big family who both meets around once a month. They're lovely people. He sometimes goes to see them on his own. That's his social life, and I've gently asked him sometimes whether he thinks he should try to be better at maintaining friendships, and he says he should, but then doesn't. My social life is full. I've always made a lot of effort with my girlfriends outside the dancing circles, plus dancing other hobbies like arts, class, etc. We recently adopted a dog, and I've enjoyed a dog training class, and we do occasional treks to nature at weekends. Then 2 months ago, my partner has suddenly expressed interest in joining me dancing. So he joined my dancing class. He remembers a bit of dancing from all those years ago when he went with me for a year or so. He was okay to join the mixed level class I go to, and I was happy for him too. Eight felt it was a sweet and he wanted to do something with me. Then he said he wants to come to the social dances, and that's where the problem starts for me. He won't dance with anyone else except me, saying he's not good enough. He also doesn't make any effort to chat to anyone. I nudge him about it after a couple of weeks. At first nicely, subtly, then directly, but he keeps laughing, saying he's really shy and he just joined so he could dance with me. Last weekend, he insisted on joining me at a dance workshop that was for advanced level. I questioned this a few times, saying I wasn't sure he'd enjoy it, but he insisted. And on the days he found it hard, and then afterwards was glued to me, wanting to chat or dance with me all the time. The etiquette of social dancing is that everyone dances with everyone, but again he brushed off, asking other people to dance, saying just so bad at it. Arg. Even when I'm describing it, it's driving me insane. I guess that makes me so angry is that I've spent 20 years cultivating my skill and 10 years forming my lovely friends group. His hobby is a major event for me. To really relax and forget everything for a bit. Dancing is something I'm wildly passionate about. I feel like he's just missing the point, trampling all over my territory, taking away something I love, and generally being very lazy with not making any effort with dancing with others or talking with others. So all the pressure of his presence is on me when I'm doing this one hobby I enjoy so much. Am I selfish? I really don't know right now if I'm just being incredibly self-centered or mean, or does anyone else see this as problematic? The last straw was that he recently told me he wants to join my dog walking class too, and drop in occasionally, or come to the weekend walks. I don't want him to, as I know he'll isolate me from others by clinging to my arm and only talking to me, and I'm too kind to just walk off and leave him on his own, with him not having anyone to talk to. Like I said in the beginning, I'm menopause, and I'm noticing myself less accommodating with people. And do I handle this with grace, not saying something that hurts? How do I place clear boundaries? Or am I just going to have to tell him nicely but clearly that I don't want him there? I guess I feel that's not fair. He's just walking into my ready set up of friends. Like, I went through all the effort of getting to know people and the discomfort of being the new person in the group. I'm shy with new people too. But I wanted to create those new friendships because I feel it's worth it. I feel like he wants me to pave the way and then just waltz in, pardon the pun, and reap all the benefits of being out and socializing, but not actually taking the emotional risk himself of putting any effort. Sorry for the long post, please help. I feel like I'm suffocating, but maybe I'm just a B word who won't support my partner. Let me know. And there's a few comments in here kind of giving their opinion on it, and I won't go too much into that. I'll kind of leave it up for your guys' own listener discretion. But personally, I definitely feel there should be a balance between being supportive of your partner and joining each other's hobbies, and like understanding when each other need help in social events, but also giving each other space and trusting each other and being independent. So yeah, anyways, let's move on to the next story. Okay, so before we start the next story, right here, basically what I'm doing is I'm just trying to have the copper all match a gradient, so it's not just like these random patches of green and blue and, you know, all those different oxidization variants. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out. Anyways, this next story is a no sleep story, alright? And so, my neighbor used to peek at me over her fence when I was little. Her fence is 10 feet tall. I didn't realize when my new customer used to be my neighbor until I pulled into her driveway. The street name had sounded vaguely familiar when I first read it. A few landmarkers on the drive over had sparked something in me. Nothing solid, though, just a prickling sensation of recognition I couldn't place. It only clicked when I actually saw my old childhood home sitting right beside my customer's property. I knew it's strange that it took me that long, that I hadn't recognized anything when I put the address into Google Maps. My uncle moved me out of this quiet neighborhood when I was about 6. I barely remember anything about living on this street or in that house. My girlfriend Ellie said that wasn't quite normal, told me gently that it was probably my brain blocking things out on purpose. I sat gripping the steering wheel long after I parked, staring at my childhood home. I backed onto a large woodland area, tall trees looming far above the roof. A bungalow itself looked abandoned, shattered windows, empty bottles scattered across dead yellow grass. Clearly no one had lived there for a long time. A heavy pressure settled in my chest. For a moment I considered leaving, but it only started my lawn mowing business a few months ago. I needed the money. This woman was only mid-30s, was only my third customer so far. She hadn't called like the others. She emailed instead. I'm interested in your service. Every week, Sunday? ? I replied that Sunday were fine and asked for the address. She sent it, followed by another message. Door left open Sundays. Money on the table. Help self to drink and meal. It struck me as odd that she contacted someone who lived an hour away instead of a local business, but she promised a generous tip. Still sitting in the van, I tried to remember my old neighbor. Elderly maybe, the emails felt that way, but when I searched my memory for her face, it came up blank. Just another thing lost to my strange childhood amnesia. Her lawn was wildly overgrown, knee-high grass, thick and uneven. The house itself was perfectly normal. A neat 2-story place with a front porch, well kept enough that the state of the yard felt odd. almost like a choice. I hesitated, wondering if I should knock or just start the job. In the end, I got to work. Part of me didn't want to meet her, yet I was delaying it. I couldn't explain why. As I mowed, my gaze kept drifting to the fence, separating her property from my old home. It was enormous, easily 10 feet tall. I couldn't believe something like that had been approved in quite a suburban street. But it wasn't just the size. Every time I looked at it, pressure built behind my eyes, the sensation of a memory forcing its way up, while something inside me resisted just as hard. The effort made my head throb. Then for a split second, I remembered hair. Long, black strands spilling down the fence from the other side, tangled and thin, damped over the timber, clinging to the wood, hanging there like a dragged curtain. I'd frozen on my cheap plastic tricycle. One of the back wheels was missing, so I had to balance my weight just right to keep it upright. It's strange, the useless little detail that scrambled back, even when everything else is lost. The hair shifted, and slowly above the lip of the fence a pale forehead rose. There were eyes, white and cloudy. I only saw them for a moment, but I knew instantly who they were peeking down at. Me. Only me. Then there had been a sound behind me, maybe a voice, maybe someone calling my name. The eyes vanished, the forehead sank out of sight, the hair slid upward, strand by strand, slithering back over the fence until there was nothing left at all. Cold washed through my body. I tightened my grip on the mower handle and focused on the lines of grass ahead of me. I didn't look at the fence again. Surely it had just been my imagination, something I'd invented out of boredom. No one could peer over a 10-foot tall fence unless they were standing on stilts or balancing on something ridiculous ladder. And even then, why would anyone climb that high just to look at a child playing in their backyard? It was too strange, too take seriously, too absurd. And yet, an uneasy bloomed low in my chest and refused to settle, because that image, hair spilling over the fence, eyes watching, was suddenly one of the clearest memories I had from that house. From that time, clearer than anything else I could recall in over a decade. I shook my head, forced the image away, and got back to work. An hour later, the lawn looked respectable again. I packed away my equipment back into my uncle's van. Then I remembered the money. I knocked on the front door and waited a bit. She did say to let myself in, but it felt wrong to just waltz into a stranger's house. I waited another few minutes before finally reaching for the handle and stepping inside. "Miss Raman, are you home?" I called out, remembering her name from her email address. One of the first things I noticed was the ceiling. It was unusually high. It made the space feel wide and open, almost cavernous. It also made it incredibly cold inside. Goosebumps rose over my arms. Most of the ground floor was open plan, so I spotted the kitchen right away with a wooden table sat by the counter. There was money laid out neatly on top of it. Beside it, a glass jug filled with something that looked like lemonade. Ice cubes floated inside, a clean glass, a sandwich on a plate. She said help myself. Still, I hesitated. It felt silly to be cautious, but I hadn't even met her. I picked up the money, nearly choked when I counted it. 4 $50 notes. I only charged $60. She mentioned a tip, but sure, this was excessive. What if she was elderly? What if she miscounted? I took 100 and left the other 100 on the table, just in case. That was when I heard something upstairs. A wheeze, wet and uneven, like air being dragged through damaged lungs. After that, 2 sharp creaks snapped through the house in quick succession, floorboards protesting under sudden weight. My body went rigid. Someone was definitely home. I stared at the staircase. "Hello?" My voice rang, too loud in the open space. "Miss Raman?" No answer. I edged closer to the stairs, despite myself, my heart beginning to pound. The noise replayed in my head. What had made them? Had she fallen? Was she hurt? If she was elderly, I told myself I should check. That was the decent thing to do. But another part of me was screaming to leave. The feeling was sudden and absolute, like stepping into a place you were never meant to enter, like bait. After a moment, I turned back to the table. I picked up the sandwich so I wouldn't seem rude, my hands clumsy and shaking, then I got out. When I drove home, I sat in the van for a long time. With the engine off, the sandwich rested on the passenger seat. Eventually, I opened the bread. Inside was butter and raw red meat. I swallowed, then noticed something else threaded in it. I pinched it between my fingers and pulled. A single hair slid free. Dark. Absurdly long. I told my girlfriend what happened, but left out the part about my strange memory. Ellie laughed. You're scared of an old granny? I don't know if she's a granny, I said. I've never met this woman. She could be a man for all I know. Are you sure? You said she was your old neighbor. She said, her eyes soft but insistent. That gentle look she always got when she was trying to probe something out about my childhood. Are you sure you don't remember anything? That long black hair entered my mind again. At that moment, I remembered something else. I remember a single strand had caught in the fence, drifting in the breeze until it detached and floated down to my 6-year-old self. I remember plucking it from the air and then playing with it carefully so it wouldn't snap. I'd wrapped it around my arm, amazed I could coil almost the entire length up to my little forearm like linen around an Egyptian mummy. I shook my head at Ellie, questioning, and told her about the inedible sandwich instead. Ellie laughed again, shaking her head. The poor woman probably had amnesia. A week later, I went back. I didn't want to, but Ellie had made me realize I was being ridiculous and the money mattered. If we ever wanted to move out of my uncle's house, we needed it. My stomach churned the whole drive. Before I even started the mower, my eyes went to the fence again. I remember long curling fingers reaching over the top, and once more I remember seeing half a face peering down at me, just eyes and the forehead, visible above the timber, watching. I reluctantly went inside to collect my payment. This time, she'd left $300 bills on the table. Beside it, a note, the handwriting thin and spidery. Take all the money. Why no drink? My gaze drifted to a jug of lemonade. I filled a glass, intending to pour half of it down the sink to make it look like I'd sipped some instead. For some reason I couldn't explain, I took a small sip. It was cold, sweet, good. After that, the memories returned, stronger than ever. I had a dream that night, a dream about food being thrown over an enormous fence. It was a roasted chicken, still warm inside a plastic bag, juices sloshing against the sides. Other times it was a whole chicken, raw, feathers still clinging to pale skin. Sometimes it was fresh fruit in a cracked plastic container. Other times it was rotting apples and thick slabs of heavy red meat. I remember the hunger. I remembered sitting up a blanket over the bushes beside the fence, a small hidden nest where I could crouch and store away what I was given. I remember eating like an animal, devouring whatever was edible before anyone could find me. I remember my scalp itching constantly. Lice? Multiplying, biting, crawling, with no one bothering to stop them. A whole kingdom of parasites living freely in my hair. Then I remembered the hand. It slipped through the narrow gap between the fence and the bushes where I sat, with my back pressed against the timber, rustling the spindly branches. The hand was enormous, but gentle. One long finger brushed the tangly hair out of my face. The itching faded. I stared up and saw nothing but the endless length of thin gray arm disappearing over the fence. I remember wrapping my small hand around the enormous finger and holding tight, crying into it. Then I remembered an angry voice coming from somewhere. The finger wriggled gently until I released it. Then the hand vanished. The arm withdrew. When I looked back up, only a faint wisp of dark hair was visible above the fence line. Someone tore the blanket away from my hiding place. They yelled, screamed in disgust. I was sitting on a hoard of food. A lot of it was rotting. There were flies. There were maggots. Hands grabbed my arms and dragged me out of the bushes and away from the massive fence so hard I thought the bones would snap. Stop, I screamed. The third time I went back to mow Ramona's lawn, I did not hesitate. Something had begun to clarify itself inside me, like an image slowly coming into focus. I knew I needed to speak with her. Ramona. Finally. I didn't know if the memories were wholly real. The pieces were fitting together now, clicking into place with a quiet inevitability. I felt closer to truth than I had been before. Instead of making my head ache, it planted something determined inside me, something that refused to quit any longer. I thought maybe my neighbor had been a sweet old granny who babysat me sometimes. Maybe she fed me. Maybe she took care of me. Maybe she read me stories. Maybe this was the only way my memories were able to return. Disgust at something else, something not quite real, but threaded through with truth. As I started the lawnmower this time, I didn't look away from the fence. I remember the humming, a low, steady hum, as I laid behind the bushes beside the fence. The yelling in the house always softened when I listened to her hums. I remember being lifted so high I could see over the roof of the house. I remember being placed in a sturdy tree branch in the forest and being given a dead fox. I remember biting into the fur flesh, feeling warm blood dribble down my cheeks. I remember sitting in a cocoon of warmth, high above the ground, watching the stars blink into existence. I remember running to my hiding place between the fence and the bushes, shaking, starving, sick with fear. I remember someone chasing me. "Henry, get back here right now, you little S-word," she screamed. She caught my arm and wrenched me around. "Mummy, stop," I sobbed. "Don't hurt me again." I remember my mother freezing, and I remember something brushing the back of my neck, light and familiar, like long strands of hair. My mother's face gasped, staring at something above us, terror carved into her face. I looked up. Then the fingers came. They wrapped around my mother's body and lifted her up, up, up. She was screaming as she went, so I called out, "It's okay, Mom. She's just taking you to see the stars." There was a deafening crunch, and her scream stopped. I saw something fly across the sky like a meteor, disappearing into the forest. Hands closed around me. They were so warm when they lifted me, gently, carefully, cocooning me as I shook and clung to the heat. I rose high enough to see over the roof of my house, just like all the other times. I finally remember seeing her face. The image was clear now, unblurred, impossible to look away from. She was pale, gaunt, her lips stretched too wide across her skull. But the eyes, they were dark, but they were warm. "Did Mummy like the stars?" I asked. She hummed. My hand shook. I didn't want the lawnmower off. I walked toward her house on numb legs, the sound of the engine fading into something distant, barely there. The front door was open, as it always was. I climbed the staircase slowly. A low groan echoed from above, stretching and deepening as I went. The upper floor was completely open plan, wide and sloping like an extensive attic. And laid out across it was a very tall woman. Her skin was a shade close to gray. Her face had the weathered features of someone much older than me. Her limbs were long and spindly. She laid on her side on a soft floor mat that covered nearly every inch of the space, her body folded carefully, purposely, as if she had made herself small for me. Her eyes found mine that moment. I stepped inside. I dropped to my knees and sobbed before I could stop myself. Terror and grief, and everything I had buried for so long, rushed through me all at once, crushing and merciless. Fingers reached out, impossibly large, wrapping around me and drawing me gently towards her. I was pulled into warmth, deep and steady, my shivers slowly beginning to ease. "You killed her," I sobbed. "You killed her, didn't you?" She hummed softly. "Why? Why did you do that?" I said, the words breaking apart as they left me. She brushed my hair back. My cries thinned into small, broken whispers. "Why didn't she care about me?" I whispered. "Why didn't she let me starve? Why did she hurt me? I was just a little kid." Her warmth held. Her breath stayed low and even. I fell asleep. When I woke up, I was in bed. Across me, settled in the armchair, was an old lady. Her eyes were distant, as if part of her had wandered somewhere far away and hadn't yet found its way back. Still, they stayed on me, steady and patient. We were still upstairs. The massive mat lay stretched across the floor, unchanged. The bed had been tucked into a small corner of the room, like it had been put there for me. "Who are you?" I asked. "What was that thing?" She didn't answer. Instead, her gaze drifted to something beside me. I followed it and saw a folded note resting on the mattress. I picked it up with shaking hands. I cursed the size and hunger. I protect. Sweet little boy, cold and hungry. I carry you to the stairs. where she not reach. Lost myself when I took her, but she not hurt you anymore. Forgive me, please. When I drove home, I finally asked my uncle to tell me the truth. I'd always known something horrible happened to my mother, but there were details surrounding that event that deep down I think I never wanted to learn. But I felt stronger now. I was ready. He showed me the picture first. They were of me as a little boy. My hair was long and scraggly. I wore dirty clothes that were torn at the seams. My body was mapped with bruises and cuts and burn marks. There wasn't much to know in the end except for the fact that my mother was a monster. And when she was found in the woods one day, half eaten, a case that would quickly be declared as an animal attack, people called it karma after they learned what she did to me. I continued to visit Ramona. I brushed her hair and cared for her when she was a little old granny. I laid down and listened to her hums when she was something else. I wrote all of this down because, unlike my mother, Ramona deserves to be remembered. I could never tell anyone about her. They would have hurt her or killed her, but I needed someone to know. Ramona may have been a beast, but it wasn't her fault. Even when she lost control, it all came down to an instinct to protect. When she was dying, I fell asleep holding her large hand, and when I woke up, there was nothing. She was gone. Even though she doesn't live there anymore, even though the house is no longer occupied, I still go back to mow her lawn. And sometimes, when the lawn is done, I linger until the night swallows the sky. When I focus on constellations, it almost feels like I'm rising slowly above the roof of my house. Alright guys, and so that's the end of the first No Sleep story. Story 3. I've been subway security for 23 years. Stop ignoring the smell. If you're reading this while sitting on a train, do me a favor. Put your phone down for a second and tell me what it smells like around you. If it smells like an old rotten rag from some damp basement, read this. My coworkers, my friends, even my own kids, nobody's listening. Especially my youngest daughter. She's dead certain I'm just a crazy old geezer with a case of job brain. Jokes that have gotten early onset senility and tells me it's time to see a shrink or just pack it in and head to the nursing home. Look, I'm barely in my 50s, and I'm dang sure not ready for the rocking chair yet. Well, my gut has almost never steered me wrong, and right now, my gut is screaming. That's why I'm writing this before I leave. My job is to warn you. After that, do what you want. I've seen this new subculture, or whatever the heck they're calling it lately, right? The one spreading through the cities like a rash. Look at them. I mean, really look at these kids. Let me explain. See, I work security for the subway, standing by the turnstiles, watching the scanners bark and seeing the same tired faces. My job is to keep an eye on the gates, making sure nobody hopped the turnstiles or brought anything through that didn't belong. It's only supposed to be a temporary gig, something to ride out the crisis, but I just stayed. The time at the gate is only one part of my routine. We rotate. 1 hour we're on the frisk, then we're head back to the room to go blind staring at a grid of 30 cameras, then you're out on the patrol, back and forth, pounding the pavement. Whole day on your feet. By the time I got home, my soles are throbbing like a train ran over them. I've even got a ritual. Get home, first thing I do is shove my feet into a bucket of ice water. Without that, you ain't standing up the next morning. I buy expensive boots. I shove orthotic insoles in there. Never cheap out on that. But don't mind my whining. The pay is decent enough. I'm not going to buy a gold ticket or something, but it covers life in this meat grinder. I even took my wife on a real vacation every year. She would have believed me, or at least she'd have listened. She always listened. I still carry her old Polaroid around. She's always with me, even though she's been gone for many years. Nancy's watching over me from above, keeping me safe. I know it. Anyway, I'm rambling again. Point is, there are perks to being stuck underground. You find them after a while, like the sounds of the smells that used to drive me nuts. I grew to love them. The cocktail of kerosene and ozone, hot metal and the human soup, cigarettes, sweat, perfume, cheap food, all the real rest. I learned to love the stink even if I don't notice it much anymore. And I like people watching when I'm in the mood. It keeps me from dying of boredom, and hey, it's part of the job, noticing the little things. Like predators, I can spot them from a mile away. They try to blend in, acting casual, but I see what they're up to. I see the way they eye someone's bag, their pockets, or how tight a person is clutching their phone. They're looking for the soft spots. The office drones, too. They're exhausted, shoulders slumped, all wearing the same drab rags, always in a rush. Their bosses, though, they've always got better shoes and this calmer air around them. They look at me like I'm a piece of furniture if they look at all. Tourists and locals, I snap them like twigs. Especially I like watching the kids, even if I don't get them half the time. The fashion is weird, sure. I'll watch the clothes and the hair change over the years, but something stays the same. They want to rebel, to show they're different. They think that won't be staying here 20 years from now with a bad back and shot leg. Gosh, willing kids. Gosh, willing. The most consistent thing I've seen is seeing the little groups. You'll see a pair, yep, those two are in love. You can tell instantly. It's like a crowd, and their sticking subways just vanish for them. Anyway, enough of this sappy stuff. I just wanted you to understand that I've been looking at crowds for 23 years, and every dang day I know how to spot details, even the tiny ones. Usually it's all quiet. Most people are just buried in their phones, business as usual. But about 3 weeks ago, this kid caught my eye. Walked alone. I clocked him immediately, mostly because of his threads. He was one of those alt types, plenty of them around, but this kid, he looked like he fought a dumpster for his hood and lost. Filthy, covered in stains. Who knows what color it used to be? Gray, maybe? Hood up, greasy matted hair sticking out, hands buried in his pocket, a junkie I figured, dead ringer. His eyes were pitch black, full on, sclera. Lens covered the whites, face was as pale as a ghost covered in these bumpy piercings. I remember giving my youngest, Lara, a heck of that kind of crap when she was little. Glad my girl grew out of that phase. Anyway, I marked the kid, but didn't stop him. He sees plenty of weirdos down here. Jump on every one of them and you're fast-tracking your own pink slip. When he hit the gate, I made my move. Just a casual stroll, like I'm doing my rounds. No bag on him, and his look wasn't like the usual threats I've seen. He was calm, too calm, walking steady straight. As he passed, I took a sniff. None of that typical junky chemical funk. It was more like a basement smell, like the cellar at my cabin. Damp, moldy, with a hint of dead rat somewhere under the floorboards. Pure rot. Garbage notes, too. Spoiled food. But here's the thing. The hair on the back of my neck stood straight up when he went by. No idea why. Kid passed, tracked him on the cam, sat down, rode his stop, got off, normal, no incident. Probably shouldn't have given him the second thought if he was the only one. The second one, I remember her like it was the morning. Next day, early shift, she was wearing a office suit that didn't fit her. Rebel vibe, or those black scleras at all. She walked straight, looking right ahead, didn't glance at the crowd, just stood, focused, stare, no bag, no deep pockets. On her white blouse, there was this weird yellowish stain, like someone had punked a long time ago and tried to wipe it off. She was clutching a wilted rose in both hands. Her nails were incredibly long, probably manicured, grayish black, and the same trail followed her. I thought right then, and she and the kid hanging out in the same stinking basement, they were too similar to be a coincidence. And get this, when she was close, I started breaking down her perfume in my head. Rot, trash, dampness, and then that one note my son has his stinking bizarre cologne. It's called the Niche. Says it wouldn't understand. He spends half a paycheck on that crap. The perfume was called something stupid like Corpse Fluid Zero or whatever. You know the stuff. Smells like spit, urine, milk, and all the kinds of weird animal business. That's how she smells. Like she'd climb out of a cellar, dug through a dumpster, and then doused herself in that stuff. And no, it wasn't your regular homeless combo. It was really something else. Anyway, I couldn't let her pass. You okay, miss? I said, stepping into her path. She stopped and looked me in the eyes. Gosh, I felt it then. Every hair on my body stood up. Every molecule was screaming at me to just run, just run. But dang it, I couldn't. I've been doing this too long. I'm in the law here. It's my duty. So I kept my cool and braced myself. The girl smiled, but just with her lips. A smile that she was wearing braces or something. She didn't answer. She just stood there, staring at me and smiling. Marcus was on shift with me. He's a cop. He stepped up immediately to see why I'd stopped her. Miss Officer Marcus, Transit Police. Oh, how happy I was when Marcus caught the vibe and moved in. My colleague here has a question. Are you all right? Do you know where you are? The girl just kept standing there smiling. Now she was drilling her eyes into Marcus. I had a good look at her then. Filthy blonde hair. Hadn't seen a shower in a long time. The stretch was wrapped and killed in the appetite I had for lunch. And those weird bumps on her pale skin, I thought it was piercing work or something because they were all the same size and perfectly round. No acne, but bumps under her skin. Miss, I'm going to need to see some ID. Marcus was already tapping something on his tablet. She pulled out a card. The plastic was chewed to heck, stained with yellow. Marcus took it with 2 fingers, looking disgusted, and started punching it into his device. She just stood there, staring at him, clutching that rose in one hand while twirling a greasy lock of hair with the other. I saw Marcus's face twitch, a shiver. Seems something's in order, miss. Sorry for the trouble. Have a good day. She took her card back and shoved it into her pocket of her filthy, dusty, crumpled shirt. I was surprised to say the least. She just started walking towards the escalator, steady, confident pace. I was one giant goosebump with no reason, but at the same time, I felt sorry for her. Even though my jaw was aching the whole time she was near me, I figured she was just some kid in a bad spot who needed help. I thought the right up until she stopped before stepping onto the escalator. She looked back at me one more time before vanishing into the crowd, and she gave me this wide, wide smile. There weren't any braces. Dang it, no braces. There were several rows of sharp teeth, like sharks, sticking out like jagged cliffs. I thought for sure I'd gone cuckoo, loco, right then, but Marcus saw it too. He was standing there, pale as a sheet. I said that formally everything was fine. ID checked out, but he felt exactly what I felt. That overwhelming urge to drop everything and run as far as his legs could carry him. And I urged to let her go. The camera showed everything was fine. She got off at her stop, rode into a parked car, standing like a sardine. Nobody paid her any mind. Nobody had questions except me and Marcus, who didn't want to talk about it after we checked the tapes. He didn't show up for work after that. Then it got worse. Next day, I saw 2 more of them, dressed differently, but all wrong. It's spring, but one of them was in a heavy winter parka. The clothes were okay, but totally out of season and old-fashioned. The second one was dressed like a food delivery courier. The only thing they had in common were the black scalars, nails, and pale skin with the bumps, the smells, and no gadgets. The guy in the parka was holding newspaper. The courier didn't have a bag, but was carrying a small metal lunchbox. The only stopped the courier because of the box, and because I insisted both pass the check and move on. The duty cop didn't even care. When I asked him, don't you see how weird this is? He just said something like, it's just the fashion these days, they're fine. The other guy on the shift looked at me like I was a moron. Whenever I tried to bring up the weirdos, especially the younger ones. Chill out, man. These freaks everywhere now. It's just a trend. Yeah, a trend. The guy with the lunchbox? That was a raw chicken leg in there. And the newspaper? It was a vintage original. From back when I was a toddler getting smacked by my mom for being picky and not eating my spinach. That's when I realized either I totally lost my mind or everyone else had. And meanwhile, there were more of them every day. Groups of them. I started calling these creeps basementers because of the paleness and the stink. The basementers always walked with purpose, always carrying something weird or hiding their hands in their pocket. The men and women all had the same long nails and other stuff, and that horrible feeling that was driving me crazy. Run. Run. I had 2 stick leave. I couldn't do it anymore. I called my kids, told them everything straight up. You know how they'd react. Said they'd drop by during the week to check on me. Told me I'd needed to rest and get my head examined by a professional. And I would have gone to a shrink right away, but then my coworker, my regular relief, messaged me and didn't talk much, but he tracked down my number somehow. Turned out he saw it all too, and it was driving him insane too. He said he quit because something inside him was screaming to get out of the city. He babbled about some prophetic dream. He said his grandma was some kind of seer and she's gotten the sight too. And his gut told him that it feeds on the big city and it's spreading faster than the whole 2020 mess did. Dang it, soul. I was exhausted. I decided we were both crazy, and me and my buddy felt relieved at the same time because I wasn't alone anymore. But then I went to the shrink, and on the way there I saw maybe 20 of those basementers in the crowd. I accidentally locked eyes with one of them. Usually they just looked straight ahead if I didn't touch them. They didn't do anything and didn't pay attention, but this one looked. I nearly messed my pants. He stopped, put a clawed finger into his lips, and they shush gesture and smiled with his shackled mouth of his. And then I saw what he was holding. I ran. I made it to the doctor's office and he prescribed me some sedatives. So at least I wasn't hallucinating because he sees them too. The weird kids with the weird fashion. Said it's nothing to worry about. Fashion changes and the city's always full of strange people. Well, at least I know there's no point in going to the cops. They'll just turn me away too. Besides, my instincts are screaming that I need to leave now. Time's running out. I don't know what's next. I've been blowing up my kids' and friends' phones, saying some of them listened, promised they'd at least head out of the country for the weekend if they can. My kids said they'd come too. We aren't that close, but they're my kids. If they don't show up, I don't even want to think about it. I'm finishing this mess now. My bags are packed. I'm catching the first bus to my place in the countryside, and I've suggested you do the same. Or if you still think it's just some burnt out fart losing his grip, at least take a good look at the people around you in the crowd. Even if they look perfectly normal, make an effort. Look closer. Take a sniff. See what they've got in their hands. Like this guy in the crowd when I was on my way to the dock. In his palm, with those long black sharp fingertips, he was holding an old Polaroid, the one that went missing from my uniform pocket a couple days ago. The photo was of my old lady, rest her soul. The one I took when we were at the beach. The light bridge dress. She was holding a rubber ring she used to take to the beach, posing, flashing me a peace sign with two fingers looking like long black claws. Well, you know how it is. On the old photo, she looked very fashionable, very trendy for today. Take care of yourselves, guys, and seriously, get out of the city this week. Okay, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and make sure to leave a comment on which type of story you liked more, and if you'd like a longer video on this, if you'd like me to do it again, anything like that, any feedback. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. Bye!